Welcome to NFL Nexus, the place you come for the deepest dives into everything football. Today, we are digging into a story that is absolutely captivating the league. In Pittsburgh, an entire era has come to a close. For the first time in what feels like a lifetime, nearly 20 years, the Steelers are on the hunt for a new head coach. And let me tell you, their strategy is not what you'd expect. This is a high-stakes, high-wire act that could either kickstart a brand new dynasty or it could set the franchise back for a very, very long time. Are they going to play it safe, or are they about to make a move that sends shockwaves through the NFL? We're going to break it all down. But hey, before we do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a comment below telling me who you think should be the next Steelers head coach. And while you're at it, if you're looking for an awesome gift for a young football fan in your life, or hey, even for yourself, you've got to check out our coloring books. They're really cool. The link is right down there in the description, or you can just scan the QR code you see on the screen. Seriously, your support is what lets us keep making explainers like this one.
So let's really put this moment into perspective. We're in a league that's defined by constant change, right? Some teams feel like they have a revolving door for head coaches, a new guy every 2, maybe 3 years. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they are an absolute island of stability in that chaotic sea. I mean, just think about this. They've had only 3 head coaches since 1969. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. That's it. That is a level of consistency that is just completely unheard of in modern sports. And that's exactly why this search feels like such a massive, seismic event. The rumor mill, it's not just spinning, it's a full-blown Category 5 hurricane. We're hearing names from all over the place. Established guys, up-and-coming coordinators, even some wild-card college coaches. This isn't just about hiring a new coach. This is about appointing the next guardian of a legendary legacy. And we really have to let that sink in. This isn't just about filling a spot on the sideline. This is about laying the cornerstone for the next 20 years of one of the NFL's most storied franchises. I mean, look at their track record. The last time they did this, they brought in Mike Tomlin, who took them to 2 Super Bowls and brought home a Lombardi trophy. The time before that, Bill Cowher, a Hall of Famer, and before him, Chuck Noll, the architect of one of the greatest dynasties in the history of sports. The pressure is immense. The person they pick now is going to be responsible for navigating the modern, high-powered NFL. They're going to have to develop a young quarterback, and they have to do it all while upholding the Steelers' way. Getting this wrong doesn't just mean a couple of bad seasons. No, it could mean a decade or more of being lost in the NFL wilderness.
You can practically feel the anxiety and the pressure radiating out of the Steelers front office. Every single rumor, every whisper is being put under a microscope and dissected by what is, without a doubt, one of the most passionate and knowledgeable fan bases in all of sports. The weight of this decision is it's enormous. Think about the consequences if they get this wrong. You risk completely wasting the prime years of defensive superstars like TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick. You risk failing to develop your young offensive players. And maybe worst of all, you risk becoming irrelevant in an AFC that is absolutely stacked with elite quarterbacks and genius-level coaches. So the question for the ownership isn't just who's the best coach out there, it's who is the one person we can trust with the keys to the entire kingdom.
Okay, so with all that pressure, you'd think the Steelers would be casting the widest net possible, right? Interviewing 10, 15, maybe 20 candidates to make sure they leave absolutely no stone unturned. And look, they are doing their due diligence. But reports coming from deep inside league circles are suggesting that they might have already zeroed in on their guy. It really seems like one name has already risen above all the others.
Now, this piece of information comes from a very, very respected source, CBS sports reporter Aditi Kinkhabwala. She has deep connections all around the league, and she wasn't just guessing here. She was passing along a conversation she literally just had with a current NFL coach. Now, of course, we have to note that the coach's name is anonymous, and in the crazy world of coaching searches, things can change in a heartbeat. But when a current coach, someone on the inside, is willing to put a name out there this clearly, this definitively, you have to pay very, very close attention. It's a really fascinating piece of this entire puzzle.
Let's just break down that phrase for a second. Leader in the clubhouse. In the world of sports, that's not just a casual guess. That is specific language. It implies that someone has a significant, established lead over everybody else in the race. It suggests that unless something goes horribly wrong, he's the guy to beat. So this isn't just another rumor floating around on social media. This feels like a signal. A coach in the league talking to a major reporter believes the Steelers have already picked their man. So let's take a look at why Chris Shula, the Rams' defensive coordinator, is supposedly being viewed as the heir apparent in Pittsburgh.
When you look at him on paper, Shula really is this fascinating mix of old-school Steelers football and new-school NFL strategy.
Owner Art Rooney II has historically shown a strong preference for defensive-minded coaches, and Shula absolutely checks that box. But he's also young, which means he brings the kind of fresh, modern schematic ideas that the Steelers' defense desperately needs to keep up in the AFC. I mean, look at what he did recently. His Rams defense completely shut down a Chicago Bears offense that had been on an absolute tear. He held them to under 200 yards. And he's done this without a roster that's just packed with superstars and all-pros. He's done it by being brilliant with his schemes and getting the absolute most out of the talent he has. But that last bullet point on the screen, that's the big one. That's the red flag for a lot of people. No prior head coaching experience. And that is a risk. Can he command a room of 53 professional athletes? Can he manage an entire coaching staff? It's a projection. And it also happens to be the single biggest complication in this whole process.
And that very complication, the fact that Shula is so good at his job, it creates a huge strategic problem for Pittsburgh. Because like any big gamble, there's always a catch. The very thing that makes Chris Shula so attractive to the Steelers is the exact same thing that turns this entire coaching search into a stressful, nerve-wracking waiting game. So here is the deal. The NFL has a rule, and it's a good one. You cannot officially hire or even start negotiating a contract with a coach from another team as long as their season is still going. The league, understandably, wants its playoff teams to be 100% focused on winning a championship, not on their coordinators taking interviews for other jobs. What this means is, as long as the Los Angeles Rams are still in the playoffs, Chris Shula is untouchable. The Steelers can love him, they can have him at the top of their board, but they can't make a move. Their entire plan is at the mercy of how well another team does in the postseason.
And this right here, this slide perfectly lays out the strategic tightrope that the Steelers are trying to walk. On one hand, the potential reward is absolutely massive. You wait it out, the Rams go on to win the Super Bowl, and you get to hire the brilliant defensive architect of a championship team. That's a grand slam, but the risk? It's just as big. Every single day that they have to wait for Shula is another day that other fantastic candidates, guys like Brian Flores or Anthony Weaver, are out there interviewing with other teams and potentially taking other jobs. The coaching carousel spins incredibly fast, and if you wait too long, you could look up and find that all the other great options are already gone. It also puts you way behind in the critical process of building a new coaching staff, which can set your whole offseason back.
Right, so the bottom line is this. If they decide to wait until all the confetti has fallen at the Super Bowl, and then, for whatever reason, things with Shula don't work out, maybe he decides he wants to stay in LA, maybe another team swoops in at the last second with a massive offer, the Steelers could be left totally high and dry. They'd be scrambling to hire from a pool of candidates that has already been picked clean. It is a monumental risk, but it seems the Steelers believe they're holding a trump card, a kind of secret weapon that makes their head coaching job the single most attractive opening on the market, no matter how long they have to wait to fill it. So how are the Steelers planning to make their job so irresistible that their number one candidate will wait for them? Well, it turns out the answer isn't just about the history and prestige of the franchise. Nope, it's about cold, hard cash and the promise of absolute, unchecked power.
This is the other half of the equation, and honestly, it might be the most important part of this whole story. A head coach, especially a first-timer, is only as good as the coordinators and assistants they surround themselves with. And the Steelers, an organization that, let's be honest, is sometimes seen as a bit old-fashioned or frugal, are reportedly ready to completely shatter that perception. According to reporter Rafa Topaldo, their plan to empower the next coach is what makes this patient strategy not just risky, but potentially brilliant.
This quote right here, this is a bombshell. For a team that has a long-standing reputation for promoting from within and being very conscious of their budget, this signals a massive shift in their entire philosophy. This isn't just Art Rooney II saying, "We'll support you." This is him essentially telling his next head coach, "You will have a blank check. Go out and assemble an absolute dream team of assistant coaches, and I will pay for it." It's a promise of complete autonomy and basically unlimited resources.
This financial power, this war chest, is the ultimate countermove to the risk of having to wait. It's basically telling any coaching candidate, look, even if other teams get a head start on hiring, we can give you something they can't. The ability to poach the best offensive and defensive coordinators in the entire league by making them offers they simply cannot refuse. And there is a precedent for this. Think back to when they paid top-of-the-market money to bring in the legendary offensive line coach Mike Munchak. This move signals that this isn't a rebuild. This is a reload. The Steelers are arming up, and they're ready to use their financial firepower to build a contender immediately.
So what does this all mean for the future in Pittsburgh? When you put these two huge pieces of the puzzle together, the willingness to patiently wait for their number one guy and the promise to back that coach with unprecedented financial support, a very clear and very aggressive strategy starts to take shape.
You see, it's a two-pronged attack, and it's a strategy that is really unusual in the NFL today, where you see so many owners who panic and just rush to make a hire so they can win the press conference. The Steelers are doing the opposite. They're combining their trademark patience with a modern, almost hyper-aggressive spending philosophy. They seem to believe that the combination of getting the perfect leader and then giving that leader every single resource imaginable is the true formula for success, and they're willing to risk losing other good candidates in order to execute that plan perfectly.
So the real takeaway here, what you should really understand, is that the Steelers are trying to have their cake and eat it too. They want to hold on to their identity of stability and methodical, patient decision-making, but at the same time, they want to adopt the free spending, win-at-all-costs mentality that you see from a lot of the modern powerhouse teams. It's an attempt to fuse the best of the old school with the best of the new school. The billion-dollar question, though, is, can it actually work?
At the end of the day, the Steelers are making a huge bet. They're betting that getting the right person, plus giving them unlimited power, is more important than the timing of the hire. So what's my take? I think the gamble pays off. I really do. I think they wait, I think they get their man in Chris Shula, and I think they make him the highest-paid first-time head coach in the league and give him a massive budget to build a super staff. It's a bold play for sure, but in the AFC today, you can't win by being timid. But hey, that's just what I think. What about you? Will this high-stakes strategy bring another Lombardi trophy back to Pittsburgh, or is this whole thing going to blow up in their faces? Let me know your prediction down in the comments. And please, don't forget to subscribe to NFL Nexus for all the latest analysis. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.